At the outset, let me say, we have two Padma Bhushans in the room right now. Mr. Yeo received the Padma Bhushan in 2012. I think Mr. Saran received the Padma Bhushan in 2011. So great to have both of you here with us in the audience. Of course, Mr. Yeo, thank you for joining us because it's late for you in Singapore. But I just want to start by asking you, Mr. Yeo, we've had discussions earlier as well about this. Can India maintain its strategic autonomy and still sort of do well? Because we need to grow at 6, 7, 8% growth rate for many years. It's a must, it's an imperative. But it's a very fractured world right now. How do you think about that question? It's a multipolar world, as has been described by many over the last 2 or 3 years, especially since President Trump took over late last year. So just opening thoughts, Mr. Yeo.
Well, India is too big, too old to be anybody's satellite. And it already has the world's biggest population. It will quickly be the world's second or third biggest economy. And I don't see India as being aligned to anybody. It will be aligned to itself and be a pole unto itself in the multipolar world.
Just today, and I'm just using this example because it happened today, in the afternoon, we heard the sort of chief of NATO, Mr. Yeo, saying, and it came as a surprise to me, he said, in his conversations with President Trump, and he was talking, of course, about Russia and the 50-day deadline that he's given Russia to sort of, start talking peace. He said, New Delhi and China and Brazil better start making phone calls to Russia to urge President Putin to talk peace. Otherwise, we're going to be looking at very harsh tariffs. Completely out of the blue. Russian crude, of course, is one thing, but this seems slightly different. And it kind of sort of goes to the heart of the question: can we maintain this strategic autonomy in this very fractured world, sir?
I think his remarks are a little laughable. The Western tide has crested in the world, but they're used to talking like that. I don't think India or China will. They will take it with some wry amusement, but I don't think they're intimidated at all.
Should we take this seriously, Mr. Yeo? These kind of comments, or?
No, he's echoing Trump. But Trump changes his mind all the time. Today he takes a tough position against Putin. Tomorrow he says, well, Zelensky should not strike Moscow. God knows tomorrow what he will say. We've got to take him seriously because he has power. But at the same time, we have to take a longer-term position and look after our own interests. For India, the key is your own economic development because it has a huge population. There will be growing surplus labor from the countryside, more and more graduates, and they need jobs. And manufacturing is critical to absorb this surplus labor. So India should concentrate on its own economic development and try not to get too embroiled in other people's affairs. I think that is his best strategy. And then by your own performance, by your own economic strength, others will have to have high regard of you.
Mr. Yeo, let's just talk about the relationship with our neighbor, China, in the context of this great sort of strategic competition which is underway on so many fronts between US and China. Where does it leave us? We've had academics and who've come on and said that, well, we must improve our relationship with China, and perhaps we should. But just in terms of trade, China is, the world's factory. They're not consuming, they're not looking to import stuff from elsewhere, but they're looking to export to the outside world. Is that a fundamental kind of a problem when you look at this relationship?
No, I don't see a natural antagonism between India and China. I know anti-Chinese sentiments in India now are quite strong, but I don't think this will continue for very long because there are no fundamental contradictions between India and China. Historically, they are not enemies. There was a border war. but which is largely forgotten in China, but still raw in India. But it will eventually be resolved. I mean, the way China and Russia have been able to demarcate a much longer border than the one between India and China. In the case of India and China, that border was never demarcated because in the east you had the McMahon Line, which was demarcated with the local Tibetan government at a time when London recognized Beijing as suzerain, so it has no international validity. In the west, various lines were drawn by the British, which sometimes the Chinese were not even cognizant of. So this work has got to be done. When bilateral relations are good, then the problems can be easily resolved, as they were between China and Russia. Of course, following Gao 1, the US saw an opportunity to bring India on its side against China. And India saw an opportunity to make use of the US against China. But when it came to Ukraine, India supported Russia, would not condemn Russia. When it comes to Pakistan, the US will not condemn Pakistan. So it's an adult relationship. And yes, we maximize whatever parts are at play, but the long-term position is India must be autonomous and calculate in its own self-interest. And that self-interest should be stable, friendly, but not too friendly relations with China.
This is a question which many ask, but I don't think any of us will be wiser in hindsight in that sense. But is this fracture in the world that we're seeing, Mr. Yeo, as you see it, permanent, or this is a 4-year thing?
Oh no, I think we're in the great transition to a multipolar world. I mean, China will be much larger than the US economy. India will be its own pole. Brazil will be independent. Africa will have its own destiny. And Europe, Trump has succeeded in forcing NATO countries to spend much more. But once the Europeans are militarily stronger, they will assert their own policy with respect to Russia, the Middle East, China, Africa. So in a sense, Trump is helping to precipitate the future, a multipolar reality. I don't think it's just Trump. Trump is merely the product of an age which is in great transition.
India, of course, is one of the fastest growing large economies, Mr. Yeo. Very large local consuming sort of sector, and that is the reason why global companies all want to be here. In terms of just strategies to adopt, if you think this is permanent, this fracture is permanent, what should be the model? Should we be building for the world in a big way, like what China started doing, starting early 2000s, or the model has to be different?
India is big enough to have its own model, but on investments in manufacturing, I think India should do what China did, which is in return for access to your market, it should require foreign investors to go into joint ventures. So in this way, you build up domestic indigenous capabilities. That's how China did it. In Shanghai, the current premier, when he was party secretary of Shanghai, Li Qiang, he gave almost a square kilometer of land in Shanghai to Tesla, to Elon Musk. And Elon Musk did not see the Chinese as competitors in electronic vehicles at all. But the Chinese learned. And now in some areas, they have overtaken Tesla. So in the same way, by getting foreign manufacturers to invest in India, Indians will learn, Indian companies will grow stronger, and then have their own place in the world. But in this respect, you cannot keep out China, because China is the world's greatest manufacturer. And if you keep out China, you can't be strong. Many of your components have to come from China. And I know India is worried about rare earths, which Jaishankar brought up recently in his visit to Beijing.
I'm going to just end with this one last sort of question to you, Mr. Yeo. As you see it over the next couple of years, what's the big risk? What's the big risk for the world?
The single biggest risk is India-China, China-US relations, because they can destroy all of us. But I think there'll be some kind of a deal between Trump and Beijing. There's a fair chance that at the end of this year he'll visit Beijing with a big business delegation. They're working towards that. He wants a deal to win his midterms. China also wants a deal, but will not be bullied. So India should triangulate with that future in mind and calculate in its own self-interest.
Mr. Yeo, we'll leave it there, sir. Thank you so much for joining us. Wise words. You're being heard here in this audience, and I'm sure, across our platforms and perhaps, in New Delhi as well. Thank you very much for joining us on this special evening for us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's a great honor to be here.